Yeah, just checking to make sure that I'm online. I'm not seeing it yet. So just checking. Slightly confused as to when this all happens. My software is saying I'm streaming, but I'm only seeing it just now. So just checking again, just make sure that everything's unmuted now. I really should have talked a little bit more. I was just staring. That's not clever. But well, I think my microphone's fine. So with a little bit. Yeah, just checking to make sure that I'm. That's all good. That's all good. That's all good. Okay, great. So finally, that game was drawn with Leela White against Stockfish. Quite surprising, really. I really was expecting Leela to put that one away. I mean, it looks just like you know, a pretty bad Czech Benoni where White was a pawn up, but exchange of queens, Black's kingside was weak. You know, I mean, really. But yeah, I mean, neither Leela wasn't that positive, and Stockfish wasn't that negative either with Black. And yeah, just seemed like a pretty convincing hold in the end. Quite surprising. So yeah, I mean, we're going to see now what Leela does. Just going to be very interesting to compare. I mean, I think we're going to see something similar looking at the PV, because Leela wants to play this move h5 as well. I mean, as we said, in this position normally, you know, Black often castles kingside quite quickly, and White plays h3 and g4, expands on the kingside and gets a huge amount of space. And well, both Leela and Stockfish really seem to enjoy or seem to like playing the move h5. Just trying to gain some kingside space and trying to you know, just trying to stop White from gaining space easily, you know, from getting any extra advantages in too easy a fashion. And yeah, it does actually seem quite good. You know, it seems like a decent way to play. I mean, I think, you know, White's still better, but still, you know, I think getting some kingside space is not a bad start. The question is, you know, what do you do after? So Stockfish exchanged off the bishops, the dark squared bishops, very early. Played h5 and g6 and bishop h6, and I'm not sure. I mean, I showed a game which I won against Guy West, New Zealand international master, I think, in Illustra in '98, and exactly as the Czech Benoni, where Black exchanged off the dark squared bishops, and it really convinced me that once that happens, you know, Black's position loses all its dynamism, and it's really, you know, possible to just to control the game from then on, really. Yeah, you know, so I don't really like that exchange of dark squared bishops. But looking at what Leela's thinking about, Leela seems to be keeping the dark squared bishops on, so that could be interesting. Could be a completely different game again. So let's have a look. My goodness, so there's people betting big channel points on this game. Quite interesting. I mean, really, this is an opening that really should, well, it should be right up Leela Street, really. I mean, you'd really expect that that Leela could make something of this. And well, Stockfish defended excellently, very actively. I mean, I said that exchanging off the dark squared bishops, you know, sort of takes away a lot of the activity from Black's position. But yeah, Stockfish managed to, with a pawn sacrifice and a bit of a following wind, managed to create some counterplay. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Stockfish did very well. But now, yeah, you know, Stockfish has got White, and this is a nice position. Yeah, I mean, these are not Stockfish's ideal positions, maybe, but it's still very strong in them. So could be quite interesting, this one. So let's have a look at the PV, because well, Stockfish's we know, and that's it's sort of looking at still looking at the exchange of bishops. But Leela's PV is actually quite interesting. So we'll just use the old padlock symbol. and off we go. So h5, h4, g6, g3, knight a6, bishop g5, knight c7, bishop e2, and now bishop g7. So Leela. Oh no! Just in the chat we've seen Mr. BDZZ. I don't have faith in Leela. My goodness me. This is more shocking news than anything I've heard today. I cannot believe it. If even Mr. BDZZ is abandoning Leela, who is left? But anyway, let's have a look at Leela's PV. So f3, bishop d7, knight h3, queen b8. So yeah, I mean Leela basically, you know, trying to keep that dark squared bishop, and yeah, you know, trying to keep some sort of extra dynamism in the position. I mean, what I explained was that you know, this dark square bishop, of course, it's behind a pawn, but that's the whole point of the King's Indian, really. That you know, you put the bishop behind a central pawn, and then you advance with f5, advance on the wing, and then the center gets opened, and then this bishop suddenly becomes mighty, and Black's position explodes as it goes forwards. Yeah, you know, the risk is that the bishop never gets employed, you know, and it's passive forever. But hey, you know, that's you know, that's just the risk that you take. In principle, I prefer keeping the bishops, the dark square bishops on. I think that's a better move. So a4, and then yeah, Leela plays knight a6 to b4. Always a little bit worried about putting knights on b4. You know, we've seen I think, was it last Division P? Stockfish lost a really bad game against Stockfish with this, where it put, you know, one of its knights on b4 in this sort of structure, and that knight just ended up doing nothing at all. So a little bit risky. But then a5, knight h7, bishop d2, castles, g4, queen d8. Ooh, that's all a bit risky. Bishop f1, king h8, bishop h3, rook g8. Well, how bad is this? Maybe not so bad, actually. You know, it looks like Leela's sort of unraveling there. Bishop f6, knight f8 to g6. Yeah, I mean, who can tell? It's tricky position, but it's pretty. He said it again. I, Mr. BD said, don't have faith in Leela. My goodness me. It's all happening here. It's so this is a very interesting PV from Leela, but you sort of see what it's trying to do. I mean, it really is going to try for the keep the dark square bishops on and get some activity somewhere, you know, probably with f5. So and it's also looking for a bit of counterplay with b5. So could be interesting. I think this is going to be a, you know, quite a different game to the previous one where Leela was white and Stockfish was black, which is pretty good. You know, that's what we want to see. We don't want the same game all the time. We want differences. Hey, Jose Lopez. Hey, TCEC. Hey, Android Poetry. Let's have a look. I mean, the big question is, with this little faith, has Mr. BDZZ voted for a Stockfish win? That's the interesting thing. No, he's going for a draw or Leela win. So, although fate has abandoned him, still putting all his money on Leela. So, excellent stuff. Yeah, I mean, what is Stockfish thinking about? I mean, Stockfish is really expecting, you know, something quite similar to the previous game. It thinks that the black should exchange off the dark square bishops with g6 and bishop h6, and you know, we getting this sort of position again. Oh, castles even. My goodness. Oh, let me lock because Stockfish is thinking at the moment. Knight g4. Well, it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty similar, you know, to what we saw in the previous game. Some b5 sack stuff in different places, but still. So yeah, I mean, quite interesting, and yeah, we're sort of used to all that. But Leela insta moving, whack. g6. So this is again a move that Stockfish is expecting. A bit surprised they're always going bishop e2 this early, but g3 now in the PV, which is much more normal. And then it's going to be very interesting to see whether Leela actually sticks to this idea of keeping the dark squared bishops, or whether it weakens and exchanges off the dark squared bishops. It's I do prefer its plan. I think it's a better plan in principle, but yeah. Oh, bishop g5 from Stockfish. Yeah, I understand that one. I'm not sure about the move itself, but in the previous game, sorry, just get to the right thing. In the previous game, Stockfish was looking at this line. E4, h5, h4, g6. It was looking at playing g3, bishop h6, and then bishop g5. This was the Stockfish's main line here, and then f4, which was pretty aggressive. I think it was looking at f6 afterwards, which was all getting pretty crazy, really. So yeah, I mean, I guess Stockfish is looking at bishop g5 now, and yeah, expecting bishop h6. Oops, good lord. Don't do that. Expecting bishop h6, and then g3, you know, will happen. So that would just be some sort of transposition. So but it's back to g3. But you can see the line that we were saying there: bishop h6, and then bishop g5. So yeah. So now what we want Stockfish to play quickly, and then we're going to see knight a6 to c7. Yeah, it's more often seen in the Benoni, this knight a6 to c7 maneuver, to help support a6 and b5. It's yeah, not so common in the King's Indian, but yeah, this knight a6 to c7 has bishop b2, f3, maybe preparing g4, maybe. I think g3 and f4 is always going to be the main break, TCEC. I think that's the one. F4 is the one that you want, supported by g3. I think to play g4 when black's already played h5 is, yeah, maybe not going to achieve so much. But interesting now. I'm really really intrigued to see whether Leela follows through with its initial plan. Yeah, I mean, with you know, with these sort of openings, I always, I suppose that the one, you know, the big risk for White is that you end up wanting to grab space all over the board, and then, you know, at some stage Black does get counterplay, and then you end up losing. You know, it's I mean, from that point of view, putting the knight on b4 like Leela's doing there, that does sort of dissuade queenside castling, really. You know, so. And then if you've managed to well, sort of make White a little bit more nervous about going queenside, then yeah, going kingside yourself is sort of safer, and then you're probably more likely to get in knight h7. But okay, g3 has been played, and now Leela, are you going to stick to your plan? I think Leela is going to stick to her plan. I think it's just not thinking. Leela's just not thinking of playing bishop h6. So great. That's just going to be a completely different game. Yeah, what's Leela doing here? What sort of? Let's have a look at the type of position there. Just oh, good lord! Just lock that. Yeah, I mean, looking at this PV, pretty flexible, really. You know, just b5 can come in. Not even as a pawn sacrifice. You know, we could even do it without. But we've also got the possibility of playing f5. So I mean, I like this very much from Leela. I think Leela's playing it pretty flexibly, and well, going to be asking White for some strategical skill really to make something of this. So well, obviously, you know, that's not impossible for Stockfish, of course, but I think a bit more, yeah. I don't know. I find this a bit more of a challenge for White than the previous game, where really it felt as if yeah, you know, White was just quickly on top. I mean, I know it didn't work out like that, but still, that whole plan that doesn't feel right the way that Stockfish played. So yeah, okay, we're going to see how this goes. Oh, bishop h6, bishop h6. No, I'm not seeing bishop h6 in the PV. Yeah, no, I mean these attacks with f3, g4 are pretty good, but I mean if Black doesn't castle kingside, then it could be a little bit more tricky. I think those sort of attacks with g4, they're really effective when Black's castled kingside. If Black hasn't castled kingside, then the rook on h8 is supporting h5, you know, and I think it just doesn't really get through in the same way. So I think, you know, probably you don't want to. I don't think against the Czech Benoni you really want to launch immediate huge attacks. I think you just want to work out a way of exerting some control. Oh no, has bishop h6 been played? It has indeed. Ah, of course I locked the PV, didn't I? That's why I got confused. Oh dear, Leela's doing the same. My goodness me. All right. Well, we're going to get a sort of a similar game to the previous one. I'm a little bit worried for Leela now. I really am worried. I thought I much preferred that other plan of keeping the dark squared bishops on. So now I think there's some definite risk. I think. Yeah, I mean, if we look at the plans here in the PVs, just yeah, Stockfish looking for a pretty quick f4, and then following up with rook hf1, and yeah, expecting Black to castle queenside. Leela's thinking of putting the king very quickly over to the king side. It's expecting it's expecting White to go to f4 as well. Yeah, we're going to get a similar structure to what we had in the game there, really. But I mean, yeah, I'm not jumping with joy at this sort of position for Black, I have to say. I mean, it's never going to be easy to make progress here, but you should be able to advance some pawns on the queen side, find some entry points. I don't know. I mean, Black's pieces are really passive. It's not much fun to defend, I have to say. But okay, we'll see what Stockfish comes up with. Ah, okay. So Stockfish is now looking at its bishop g5 move. So that's quite interesting. Not taking on h6, but just yeah, looking for this this idea. G3, yeah, like this actually. Well, let's oops, I'm clicking on the wrong thing there. Let's put this as the main variation. Bishop g5. Yeah, I mean, this is quite interesting actually. Takes. I mean, knight g4, if you could do it, would be ideal, of course. But you just play queen d2, protecting g5, and then f3 will win the knight. So you go back to h7, and then f4, and yeah, interested about this. How about f6? Is this possible at all? How bad would this be for Black? I mean, it doesn't actually look so bad for Black, really. I mean, obviously, you get vaguely tempted by ideas like there's f5, you know, as a possible. Then you end up taking on g6 after. I'm not sure. Knight here. F takes g6, and I've got rook takes h5 after. If bishop g4, I've got queen takes g4 and rook h8 check. So yeah, I mean, you'll have to find something convincing against that. I mean, this also feels, you know, quite interesting somehow. Queen takes h5 check. It's not so silly. I mean, if king d7, I mean, if I give a check here, then I guess the king escapes there. I get plenty of pawns, I suppose, something like this. But yeah, a little bit crazy. But I mean, you might be able to go just knight b5, and then you'll be threatening queen f7 and bishop h3. You know, that's also not completely crazy in principle. I suppose though you'd have stuff like knight g5, would you? Possibly. It's more something that you'd play in blitz rather than anything else. But yeah, I mean, this is quite risky. But I mean, it's possible maybe that black could play a bit more solidly first. I'm not sure. Bishop g4, and then f6 afterwards. Yeah, I'm not sure. Not 100% sure how valuable this is. It looks quite impressive, and you know, we're attacking the black position already, but I'm not quite sure whether it's really that good straight away. Could be interesting. What has Stockfish played? Bishop g5. I thought I heard something. No, Stockfish has taken on h6, so didn't even want to risk that. Rook h6. Okay, so we're going to get bishop e2, queen d2, which Leela's expecting. And then Leela's going to put its king on the king side. Actually, we're getting quite a bit of agreement, really, in the general contours of the position. Quite surprised, actually, you know, that Leela and yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, quite surprised that they're you know, sort of thinking of the same things. Really, I wouldn't really have thought it, but okay, we're going to see. I mean, White's going to put a knight on g5 and then play f4 at some stage. I mean, light square bishops will come off, and White's going to have pressure on the f file. I think that's the basic idea. And yeah, what's the PV looking like for Stockfish? A little bit knight h3 takes. b6, bishop f1, bishop b2, bit of shuffling, an attack. Yeah, could be a long one. I mean, it could be one of those games where they shuffle for ages and then Stockfish gets a knight on f5 and suddenly it's all over. But I don't know. I mean, looking at this position, it doesn't look so scary for black. You know, I would have thought that I would expect black to be able to hold this somehow. So yeah, nothing too exciting happening in the PVs so far. Bit of a shame that Leela didn't go for bishop g7, but okay, no worries there. Dun, dun, dun. Stockfish thinking reasonable amount already. 1.43. I mean, you do sort of wonder a little bit where that 1.43 evaluation comes from. Does seem you know, does seem quite high. Does seem pretty high for the position, really. I mean, yeah. I mean, White's got a good position, of course. Just, yeah, 1.38, a pawn and a half. You know, it's a lot after just 8 moves. You know, it's yeah. I mean, Leela castle queen side in here, and I think Stockfish will play it more more cautiously. It's not going to give Leela the chance to get an a6 and b5. Although I thought that you know that yeah, actually, I want to know actually, how am I supposed to pronounce your name, Mr. Beads? Is it, are you Mr. BDZZ, or are you Mr. Beads, or are you Mr. BDZ, or you know, that's very you know, that's very, very important to know, because it also determines, of course, the song that we have to sing whenever you enter the stream. So your play in music, I mean, that's very important as well. So okay, well, so we're going to get rook h8, and then knight f3, queen e7. Right, well, I think what we can maybe do is maybe let's just take some of the positions from the PV, just a little bit later, and then we'll start yeah, having a look at those. Let me just let's start with Leela's. That's probably the most important, isn't it? Edit game, paste PGN, import. So Leela's plan is to play the king quickly to g7, and then it's expecting essentially it's expecting Stockfish to play a knight to g5 and then push with f4, you know, and that's pretty normal. Now in the other game, you know, already by this stage, Stockfish had gone a6 and b5 to try and create a little bit of play. Here Leela as black is just expecting to just basically hold this, which is an interesting concept. Rook ag8, king b1, a6, and then this move f5. And this move f5 is oh good lord, sorry. This move we're in Leela's PV here. Let me go through it again. Sorry everyone. Sorry. King g7, knight f3, bishop g4, knight g5, takes f4, knight h7, queen d2, rook g8, and king b1, a6, and f5. And this move f5 is quite interesting because I mean, the big threat always is to go f takes g6, and the problem is that f takes g6 allows knight to e6 check, and that's really, you know, that's really very, very difficult. And of course, you know, if you've got to take back with a king on g6, well, that's incredibly risky, quite apart from the problems on the f file. But looking at Leela's PV, actually something similar to what we were looking at earlier. Leela's just looking to go takes an f6, so really just meeting this attack head on and then going for mass liquidations. Yeah, wow. Of course, if it works, then it's excellent. But I mean, it does give me a very nervous feeling. This really. It's the sort of line you'd look at home with your, you know, with computer analysis, and you say, "Okay, I'm ready to play it," and then you get to the board and you say, "What? what am I expecting to play?" It happens much more often than you might think. Actually, it's the number of lines that, you know, that I've prepared at home, and then you know, when the right opponent has come along, you know, in the morning you're preparing and you're thinking, I can't do this. I just can't believe in this. You know, it's really surprising. I mean, that's why we know one of the important things when you're preparing at home is somehow to recreate, you know, the feeling of competitive play, because the way that you think about variations, the way that you think about stuff that you want to play, is very different just before the game to sitting in your study nice and comfortable with you know, Stockfish or Leela next to you, who can always be asked for some advice. You know, and that's really it's one of the things I learned. It's why, you know, that's why I was always quite a fan of playing training games against computers. I mean, it'd be even better if you had a training partner, you know, to play games against. But if not, then playing against the engine, you know, I'd get sort of a bit dressed up, put a proper shirt on and everything, and then you know, pretend that it was serious and try and play, and just try and have, you know, some sort of feelings and emotions about it. And if I just thought, oh my goodness, I can't play this, then you know, that was really very useful. this is, I mean, honestly, this looks horrific. I mean, this does not feel like the right thing to be doing, but yeah, I mean, if it works, then well, you're not going to complain, are you? But it's just the possibilities for getting into trouble here seem enormous. But let's have a look at Leela's line. Just I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily trust Leela to find the best attacking line, but here obviously Leela's managed to get its king to safety, and then it's even going about the business of well, now we get b5, of exchanging off pawns and everything, and presumably it thinks we're fine. I don't know. I mean, I'm getting, you know, when I see these sort of lines, I just get this, you know, this a bit of a flashback to a game from the previous Sufi. Can I find it? I think when I show it to you, you'll all remember it. Wait a minute. Cancel. Let's bring up here. I mean, this is obviously shameless self-promotion, but it's probably the way that I can remember it best. So remember which game it is, and I'll be able to find it. Was it Anatomy of a Blunder? There we are. Bad memories for all Leela fans, but I don't know. It reminds me somehow. You know, all this play reminds me of this position very much, and you know, Leela just set up its king side somehow and waited, and then they played around, and then at some stage we just got whack this move knight f5. You know, and yeah, the refutation was quite brilliant. The thing that Leela had missed was after rook fg8 we had this move queen g5. I'm sure you remember this game. Yeah, which one was it? It was game 49 of the season 20 superfinal. So and just, I mean, just you know, watching, seeing this happen, you know, this sort of thing, I get the same feeling really, you know, that you know, Leela's well, assuming that it's calculating perfectly here, you know, and taking some very risky decisions on the king side, and I'm just not 100% sure about it. I mean, it's not certainly not true, you know. You certainly can't claim that Leela it's bad at calculating. I mean, that's absolutely not the case, but it does sometimes, Leela does sometimes, you know, go for lines which are surprisingly specific, where really, you know, its king safety depends on one very specific variation, and well, it's definitely got into trouble against Stockfish a number of times in those lines, and definitely in season 20 that was happening again and again. Let me just unlock the PVs. But it's all gone a little bit differently here. So knight h2 played. Okay, looks a little bit odd, but actually, if you were there in the stream earlier today, that's right, TCEC. That was exactly what happened indeed. It's yeah, thanks, Andre. Yeah, I've finally worked out that I needed to unlock the PV to see the game. So, if you were in the previous stream, you would have seen my game against Guy West, and I mean, knight h2 looks a little bit odd, but if you look at where the knight is ending up, f3, bishop d7, then it's the knight's ending up in a very sensible position, namely e3, which is a great square for the knight. I mean, just protects lots of squares, and also supports the g4 break, and also, you know, an f4 break, it covers the g4 square, so it's just an excellent square for the knight. And I put my knights like this first of all, and then later I've transferred my knight round d1 to f2, you know, and I was just in complete control there basically. So, you know, it's yeah, this is all looking quite sensible. I mean, I'm not sure about playing queen g5 and swapping off queens, not 100% sure. But I have to say that, yeah, yeah, if that does happen, and then the further we go along along this PV, the more it's looking like my game against Guy West, actually. So yeah. Now, in principle, this is very pleasant for White. White's really got chances to play on both wings, with F4 and with B4. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd be a tad nervous as a Leela fan here, because yeah, I mean, this position is not going to get blocked. White's going to be able to keep the whole position open, and yeah, I mean, Stockfish is very strong in these types of positions. It's sometimes a bit slow to realise that the positions can get blocked, but yeah, once it's launched like this in a position like this, it's incredibly strong. It plays them very, very well. So yeah, this looks a little bit worrying there. Okay, bishop d7. Oh, bishop g2 and castles kingside. Stockfish, I've been giving you all these plaudits about how strong you are, about how you're going to put the knight round to e3 and keep complete control, and now you're just playing bishop g2, which is really weird. It's an odd move, bishop g2. I mean, why is it an odd move? I mean, I do understand you've played g3, so why not bishop g2? But I mean, that bishop is just looking at the e4 pawn on d3. It protects e4, but it also holds back f5. It also holds back b5. It just feels like it just feels like a much better square, d3, than g2. Putting it on g2 is really weird. And what on earth is Stockfish wanting to do here? Queen e7, castles, king f8, knight f3. Okay, it's going into g5 again. Oh, good lord, sorry. Oh, okay, it's forget bishop g2. It's gone back to bishop d3. That is much more normal. But yeah, actually, Leela was looking at playing the bishop to g2. That's really strange. I just would never put my bishop on g2 in this position. I mean, really, it's yeah. Just play, bishop d3, f3, knight f1 to e3, and you're in control. I don't want to show my game against Guy West again. That's really, but really, I mean, that was a textbook example of what White can do once he gets his pieces installed properly. And yeah, I mean, as far as I could tell, really, I mean, Black was just completely powerless. Obviously, Leela's going to play it, defend it better, but still, Stockfish is going to play it better than me. So. Wow, Stockfish. Stockfish is really considering many different lines here, and taking some interesting risks there. I suppose now that the Black has played the move bishop d7 here in its PV, or actually it's played it for real in actual fact, a knight can no longer come to d7 and e5. So what Stockfish is looking for here is queen e7. Oh, he's changed again. Stockfish was looking at a line where it played f4, e takes f4, queen f4. Let me just show what that was. So yeah. So sorry. Let me just. It's all getting a bit random, really. Knight f3. Finding it hard to keep track of all the moves that because really, I mean, both Stockfish and Leela are considering a lot of very different concepts here. But Stockfish was looking at playing something like f4 here, with the idea to take with the queen on f4, which normally you'd say this would be really bad. But because the bishop's on d7, there's no quick path for a knight to e5. So it makes it a little bit tricky for black. First of all, pressure against the f6 knight. You haven't got a knight on d7 to defend it, and also, e5 breaks, stuff like that. They could be a lot more possible. So that was in the PV as well. But Stockfish looks like it's gone back to kind of the boring option. It's going to play bishop e2. Well, okay, f3, knight f1, and bring its knights in. But yeah, it's a bit hard to find a real line. I'm finding in these things that Stockfish is looking at. It's really quite diffuse and a little bit all over the place, which makes you wonder whether Stockfish is feeling completely comfortable in this position. Yeah, I mean, as I said, from the human perspective, bishop d3, f3, knight f1 to e3, and then you'll take it a bit further. But those are kind of automatic and really strong moves, So yeah, I mean, Leela's PV looks pretty logical, but now it's it's had loads of things in its PV with a king moving to g7, and now if you look at it, Leela's thinking of casting queenside now. But if you look at what Leela's thinking, it's quite logical really for White. White gets eventually maybe a little bit slower than you'd want, but eventually Leela gets its pieces as they should be, and yeah, I mean, this looks very, very strong for White. I mean, at some stage you'll get in b4 and open the b file, and you'll just be assaulting black from two sides. That really does look very strong. I'm not really approving of what Stockfish is thinking of, I have to say. a4, knight g4, and then just exchanging knights. In principle, I don't really want to exchange off knights here. I would have thought, I mean, let's just try and avoid exchanges, and black's cramped, so really, you don't want to be exchanging the knights. I would have thought. This looks. I mean, I'm assuming that it does cost a lot of time, of course. So maybe Stockfish is calculating past the general strategy, and is actually calculating some lines where it's going to be able to invade on the f file or something like that. But it's pretty again pretty strange really. It's quite confusing. I mean, the evals are going up. It's at 1.61 now for Stockfish, but I'm finding it hard to completely relate to the moves and the variations that they're looking at really. But it does look like Stockfish is going to invite the exchange of knights, but I don't think that Leela's going to go for it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I find the exchange of knights very strange, because I think also that this white knight on h2. Okay, it's not great here, but on e3, I mean, it's performing a very nice task, much more than anything black can do. So yeah, I don't know. No, I'm with Can on this one actually, for in terms of betting advice, but I'm not at all sure. I mean, the point is that Stockfish is changing its lines all the time, and really choosing different concepts each time. So it's yeah, you're wondering a little bit whether it's struggling to really find something that it's comfortable with. But we've seen this before actually. I do remember there was another one in in Sufi 20 where was an almost block position, and you're looking at the PVs and you're thinking, Stockfish has just got no clue whatsoever what it's doing, but somehow, all the bad moves in the PV that it was seemed to be looking at most of the time, it never ended up playing, and just ended up playing good ones and beating Leela. So you can't always tell, but it is quite it is quite odd somehow. So Leela is going to castle queenside. That's what Leela is thinking. And yeah, actually, you see it in Leela's PV now. Yeah, by the way, I hope it's okay that I'm spending so much time in the PV, so I'm not looking too much analysis of the board, but yeah, there's not very much concrete going on, so it's a little bit harder to analyze. It's more finding it more interesting to yeah, just look at the PVs and see what's going past. So I hope that's okay for everyone. Yeah, Queen E7, castles, Knight A6, and then playing this move F4, and this is what we talked about. You'd have thought you want to take back with the G pawn on F4, but taking with the Queen is not stupid at all when there's no black knight that has a quick path to E5. And obviously with a bishop on D7 and the knight on A6, that's definitely the case here. And well, knight H2, bishop E2, they look a bit odd, but they're doing a good job of keeping the knight out of G4. So yeah, I mean, white plays rook F1, and again, black's lost control of F6. So that's quite this is quite an interesting line, really. In principle, yeah, it probably is quite good for white. I mean, it always makes me nervous, this sort of thing. That you play a move like Queen F4 and you get some dynamic advantages in return, but you are taking on a commitment, and if it does all go wrong, then black's got this beautiful E5 square. So yeah, I mean, that's yeah, always a little bit more risky. This feels a little bit odd. Sorry, I pressed I pressed next on my F5, knight F3, knight F5. I mean, this is starting to feel decent for B5. Wow, that's a move. That feels like suicide, to be honest. Well, we're getting deep into Leela's PVs, but yeah, possible. Quite interesting for white there. But this idea definitely one to watch out for, Queen F4. But yeah, obviously a little bit risky. But it's yeah, this seems to be really what Leela's expecting. So intrigued to see what Stockfish does then. I mean, casting kingside or queenside. Oh, Conic Ironman. Who do I think will win the Sufi? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I always assume that Stockfish will prevail somehow at the end. And if even Mr. Bede's faith is shaken in the chat, then who knows really. But yeah, I mean, I always assume that Stockfish is just a little bit stronger across a whole range of positions, and that tactical, that amazing tactical ability, will always be worth just that little bit more in more positions than Leela's positional sense. But it's going to be tight, this one, I think. I really think it's going to be tight, this one, because I think both Leela and Stockfish are defending very well. They're quite capable of holding a number of difficult positions, and yeah, I mean, they're both improved an awful lot in all sorts of positions. So it's hard to really see weaknesses in their games. So I think this one's going to be a tight one. I mean, I'd kind of expect Stockfish to prevail in the end, by maybe a point or something like that, or a couple of points. But it wouldn't shock me at all if Leela won either. So that's basically how I see it. Oh wow, a little bit of a boomy there for for Leela, and yeah, the reason is that it's and yeah, I mean that's quite instructive actually. I mean, let's just grab that that PGN, because this is quite a good example of what sometimes happens with Leela. So Leela's played bishop d7, bishop e2, queen e7, and then sorry, I should switch over to the board now. Queen e7, and then castles, knight a6 and f4. And I mean, Leela's you know, sort of whole assumption was that after ef, queen f4 was going to be the move that was required. But yeah, now suddenly it discovers that that g takes f4 is maybe quite dangerous, and then you know, knight takes e4, takes, bishop d3, queen d4, knight f3, queen f6, rook d1, king d8, knight g5. You know, with yeah, probably pretty dangerous play here. I mean, we're going to have even queen a5 checks coming in, f5s. You know, it's pretty nasty somehow. You know, and yeah, I mean, I think this sometimes happens to Leela, and I think, you know, it's the sort of thing that produced 12b4 in the second game. You know, where Leela played this incredibly risky move and got it refuted. Sometimes Leela takes big risks with its king and relies on a very narrow path, you know, to save it. And obviously, you know, as in the chat and when you're watching it, you're saying, "My God, Leela, don't do that against Stockfish. Don't take those sort of risks." But Leela, you know, Leela just does it, of course. You know, I mean, that's Leela doesn't understand that it's playing someone who's tactically better than her. So yeah, you know, it's a little bit that's the kind of thing I think that that's the vulnerability that Leela has. You know, that it does sometimes decide that it needs to go for a very sharp tactical path, and that normally involves some sort of danger with its king. But yeah, I mean, these are difficult to calculate properly, you know, on the number of nodes that Leela is calculating, and I think this does make it vulnerable at times against Stockfish. So this is quite an interesting moment. To be obviously very interesting to see whether after knight a6 whether Stockfish goes f4, but I'm pretty sure it will actually. Okay, that's where the nickname come from. Well, I think we'll stick with beads for for now. That's probably easier. That's yeah, I don't know whether Stockfish is struggling with the Benonis. I think it's doing fairly well. It does sometimes. Stockfish, I mean, it sometimes plays a little bit oddly. I mean, you know, just looking at the position, with a human viewpoint, I'm seeing a knight on h2 and a bishop on e2 and queenside castling, and I'm wondering a little bit which monkey is playing white really, and you know, just shook the pieces out on top of the board. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to fit together somehow if white plays f4. So you know, it's just still confident Leela can lose by 5 or less. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a tight Sufi, but I think I would see it as a surprise and upset if Leela won it. You know, that's ha. We're getting the likes up. Fantastic. Thanks very much, everyone. That's really great. That's yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, this could definitely turn out to be a decisive opening. Stockfish is liking its position more and more, but somehow I don't know. It's yeah, its PV looks a little bit odd to me. It doesn't look super convincing, but well, we're going to see. Leela's spending a long time now. Isn't Leela spending a long time? Oh, just 5 minutes. Okay, sorry, felt like years somehow. A6 played by Leela, so changed its mind at the last moment and played knight A6 instead of and played A6 instead of knight A6, and now yeah, if you look at Leela's PV, I mean you're just getting a bit dizzy here really, because just at the last moment Leela switched its idea, and now it wants to put the king to the king side, no longer to the queen side. These guys simply do not know what they're doing. So here, actually, yeah, White aiming, Leela expecting f3 and g4. Well, then I'm going to apologise to everyone, because I was saying, you know, now f3 and g4 isn't the way, it's got to be f4, but looks like it's going to happen. Actually, Leela's PV then ends up looking suspiciously like the game that we saw between, well, with Leela as white, really, because now it's going to play b5. Wow, what is Leela cooking up here? Rook a1 check, knight g4 and rook h4. How would this be? I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say this is really bad for black. Really, really bad. Oh my goodness, Viren, that's it's bound to be that Super Leela cluster that you're running, I think. So I say during the lockdown, I moved in with my parents, and I brought all my machines with me, all running Leela Stockfish games 24 hours a day. So I was a little bit worried that somehow the house wouldn't be able to cope with it, but it seems to be working. Okay, so now expecting. Yeah, I'm getting kind of dizzy, I have to say, with all these changes in plans and everything. But now, yeah, now suddenly we're agreeing that the queens have got to come off. No, they haven't. It's just Stockfish playing queen g5 to e3. I mean, in all fairness, I mean, you do have to admit that it doesn't make, you know, a move more or less doesn't make much difference. But yeah, you know, still, I mean, it is nice to try and play with some precision. I mean, what I'm not liking in Stockfish's PV is the fact that I'm playing rook df1 with a knight on h2. You know, I'm really getting I'm getting bad vibes about these pieces. Really, you know, they should be, you know, we should be redeploying this knight on h2. You know, it's just it shouldn't be staying there. It should be going to a square like e3. You know, and getting involved in the struggle really. Starting to look really bad for Leela, do you think? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's Mr. Beads' home Leela is feeling pessimistic as well. I don't know really. I'm not sure. I'm just kind of a little bit confused with all the changes in approach really from the engines, and I'm not. I suppose from that point of view, I'm sort of lacking a bit of confidence in what they're doing, but certainly, I mean, if you saw this sort of play, I think you'd know it was an engine or a human using an engine, because these are not particularly natural moves at all that are being played. You know, the natural human instinct would be either to play a very quick f4 then, when you've got the chance, or to play knight f1 to e3, and probably a human player wouldn't castle queenside this quickly, but would you know, would just delay committing the king for as long as possible. You know, that's yeah. This does look a little bit certainly the play from White. Yeah, looks a little bit engineered. And certainly when you look at the PVs from Black from Leela, that does look a little bit engineered as well. That's not to say that it's bad, but just yeah, you know, if you do find it a little bit hard to really grasp exactly what they're aiming for each time and why certain moves, you know, are being played. But it does look generally as if Stockfish is going to try and keep the queens on, and then afterwards he's going to try and push f3 and g4 and g5 and f4. Let's have a little look at this PV from Stockfish, because it's quite interesting. I heard something. I thought, no, nothing happened. So bom 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 bom. Let's do that. F4. Get the board. Let's do game. Edit. Paste PGN. I sort of like to not overwrite what I've done already, but okay, that's just how it's going to be. So Queen G5, Knight J, Queen E3, Knight F6, Rook G1, F3, A5, A5. Stockfish expecting. That's a little bit weird, you know. I think. That is a little bit weird to play A5. I mean, we remember in game 4 that you know, when Leela held another one of these delayed Benonis, that I mean, Leela closed the queen side only when the king side was closed. I do think here that closing the queen side already before the king side is closed is really asking for trouble. I mean, you want to have a move like b5 as a sort of a panic button for Black. I think, you know, I don't think you want to you want to play a5 yet. I mean, you could play b6, you know, keep it in reserve or something, but I don't think you should play a5. But okay, knight f1, g4, knight b4, queen f2, g5 and f4. How is this? Well, this actually does look quite interesting for White. I mean, there's a very big likelihood that an e5 break will end up being quite dangerous for Black here, and it's going to be a while before you manage to occupy this e5 square with a piece and then recapture with a piece on e5. So I think, yeah. I mean, I think this is probably quite dangerous for Black. And then what are we getting here? We're getting bishop h5. Wow, knight f5. Yeah, that does look quite dangerous. Rook e1. Oh my goodness, is Leela going to claim a sort of a fortress here or something? Well, could be, but looks a bit dodgy to me, I have to say. A really dodgy fortress with a weak pawn on d6 like that, but and also the possibility of putting a rook on e6. I wouldn't have thought this was a fortress somehow. So that Stockfish PV looks very, very good for White. Obviously not necessarily forced, but yeah, it does look pretty good. So Queen G5 played, and we're expecting Knight G8 from Leela. Sort of wondering why. I mean, do you really need to play Knight G8 this quickly? Thing is, Leela's development is really a little bit weird, you know, with the bishop on d7 here, just interfering with the development of the knight on b8. You're sort of, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're just sort of really wondering what how Leela's going to get his pieces developed properly. Just doesn't feel right. And it's sort of expecting Stockfish to exchange off queens, but sort of feels a little bit like Stockfish is doing its job for it really by exchanging some pieces. Although even Leela's PV there is pretty not particularly tasty for black. I mean, takes f6 f4, bishop h3. Ooh, rook g1, then g4. I mean, this looks quite unpleasant still. I think you should probably go a5 here with white and just stop black from playing a5 himself. Probably, I think that's probably useful. But I could imagine this just. Well, I was going to say I could imagine it being winning, but there is an annoying idea of knight h7 that becomes possible to attack g5. So that might be black's saving grace there, but still. Yeah, wouldn't need much more work for this to be winning for white. You just go a5, and then eventually you're just going to break with b4 and just break things up on the queen side. So yeah, I mean even Leela's PV doesn't look that great anymore. So yeah, a little bit worrying. But I do understand the decision just to keep the queen. So I'd probably do the same. Yes, indeed, Conic. It's a Skid versus PC, which is yeah, a slightly, I suppose, slightly further developed version of Skid. It's got a few useful extra little features, but quite like it. It's just a nice program. I should set it up a little bit better. I could make the arrows bigger and all that, but somehow I tried to do it and then the settings weren't saved. But well. So, oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm just looking at Stockfish's PV here, which is, I don't know. I mean, all this computing power, all these devs. I mean, is this what we're doing it for? Queen g5, queen d2, queen g5, queen d2. Really? But anyway, Stockfish will have its fun there with Leela. And then we'll carry on with its plan again. So Queen e3 played, and what does Leela think about that? Leela's a little bit happier. It was sort of expecting the queens to be exchanged. Now, yeah, okay. Let's have a little look at Leela's PV, just see what that's looking like. It's quite interesting. This is just just to see what the engines are expecting. I mean, in principle, I mean, black. It feels like black's getting into difficulties here somehow. Well, Leela thinking of blocking up the king side, the queen side like this, and this is what Leela's expecting. Just this sort of thing here. King d1, bishop g4, knight d2, f5. Taking some action. Queen c3. Whoa, knight d3, rook f1. Crazy PV this one. I'm not quite sure who's better here and why. Yeah, I mean, pretty random, really. I mean, I think white's definitely going to be better looking at it. As long as there's no, tactics really happening, then the d6 pawn is weak, the knight on h7 is out of play. And we're going to kick back this knight on d3 somehow. Something like queen c3. I go b takes c3, and then I can go king c2, and the knight can't get to b4. So, this sort of thing does look pretty good for white. But obviously, it's pretty random. But you're seeing again, that Leela with black developing its knight on the sort of a remote square on a6, and white using that opportunity to play f4 when black really hasn't got any good way of getting a piece on e5 and keeping it there. So yeah, I mean, looking quite looking quite quite annoying for black. Of course, it's the opening variation as well. I mean, but I do think that that somehow I think both engines set themselves up for a bit of a painful experience by exchanging off the dark square bishops and actually losing, I think, most of their counterplay in the position. But of course, what you saw there with Stockfish was that Stockfish played this b5 very quickly and just gave away a pawn and just got some random active play really that amazingly turned out to be good enough. Leela is sort of doing the sit here and suffer and take it, which is, yeah, I don't know. Well, we're going to see whether it works. I mean, what can we say? If it works, then it was genius. But if it doesn't, then yeah. It's you're going to feel a little bit disappointed with Leela. Yeah, some discussion in the chat about whether Leela is playing for a draw, for a win, or a Stockfish win. That's the early games are favourable to Leela. I'm not sure that's true. I think the games have been pretty balanced, really. I think both engines have had good chances to do what they want there, really. All right, so what is Stockfish? How is Stockfish going to do stuff? Lovely. It is going to Stockfish is going to bring its knight round to e3. Look at that. I'm proud of you, Stockfish. So it's going to play knight f1, queen f2, and knight e3, and then go g4. Rook g1. I'm really getting vibes of that game 49 in the season 20 Sufi, and these are not good vibes for Leela, I have to say. So rook h2, yeah, there could be quite a bit of shuffling whilst Stockfish decides. This is Leela sort of assuming that it's worse but holding. Yeah, interesting. Possible from Leela. Let's have a look at what Stockfish is saying. Yeah, I mean, Stockfish is just going for a quick f4 here. Ooh, fe. What is this position? With this position, yeah. This position might not be easily winning, but knight f5 is probably going to cause some pain here. I mean, the big problem here is that you're getting the knight into e4. That's really annoying. So takes. Ooh, rook g4. That was a hell of a move. Oh, okay. Yeah, rook g4. There's bishop takes g4. Knight d3 check is possible. Rook f1, but this is looking quite scary, really. Scary in the sense of horrific. So yeah, I mean, Stockfish's PV is looking pretty good, really, and not at all silly either. So yeah, I think we've got a long, painful defense ahead of us, I think. What do I think of the opening book for this Sufi relative to the last one? Well, I'm contributing to it, Jaspreet. I've contributed 25 of the openings, so I'm obviously thinking that it's the best book ever. No, I mean, I think it's a really good book. I mean, I think we're going to get lots of exciting games. You know, I'm both from fingers crossed from my openings, and I like very much the ones that Jeroen has put together as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be very, very good. I mean, we've had some classic Sufis, but so far I've always had the feeling that they've got you know, better and better really. So hopefully this one can keep that that upward trend. I think certainly you know, I think that this season's Division P was I thought was the best ever really. I thought that the balance of openings there was actually really good. You know, I mean, we got there was plenty of pressure on the black players, but also some you know, enough pressure that we saw some great defensive performances. So so that was really you know, that was really that was really very good. So it's quite a tough act to follow, but nah, I think it's going to be good. 50% better. To be honest, yeah, I mean, I was very, very happy to do this together with Jeroen because, well, I realised, you know, whilst I was doing it, how difficult it must be, and I really, you know, you really understand how much, you know, how difficult it must have been for Jeroen to do 50 openings every time. You know, it took me, it felt like months of man work. Well, it was really, you know, to just produce 25. So yeah, really impressive. So I was really, really very happy to do it together with Jeroen. And I think, yeah, we you know, we generate the openings in completely different ways. So you know, hopefully that's going to lead to a nice balance. You know, you're going to have things that Jeroen finds interesting, things that I find interesting, and they seem to be you know, different but nicely complementary. So yeah, but I'm quite nervous. I'm a bit hyped about it, I have to say. You know, just every time when it's your openings, you're I mean, it's the sort of nerves I had when I was in the good old days in the 1990s when I was seconding, you know, top players and preparing openings for them. You know, that you send your players into battle with your openings and you're praying that they're all right. You know, and similar sort of thing here with the book. Dun, dun, dun. So Stockfish going to repeat, and then yeah, I mean, what I'm expecting is that we're gonna get I mean, the pawn's going to go to G4, and then we're maybe going to get a reasonably long period of shuffling then. That's kind of what I'm expecting, and then it's just going to be a question of whether yeah, of whether Stockfish has a breakthrough, or whether Leela allows a breakthrough. You know, just like that game 49 in the season 20 Sufi. Because this is Stockfish's PV now at move 40, and yeah, I mean, still anything can happen really. You know, so. So there's, yeah, you really do expect there's going to be quite a bit of shuffling. But I mean, at some stage, you know, a move like Knight F5 could be, you know, could be really just, it could just be finished, you know, for black. So yeah, I mean, really, black's got to be really, really careful there. Thank you, Canches. It's. I have to say, when the idea was suggested, I thought, wow, yes, want to do that. So, and yeah, I really enjoyed the process. So, fingers crossed. Come on, come on, Leela. Who's thinking at the moment? Leela is thinking. 2 minutes 28. It's wondering, do I take the draw by repetition? That's what Leela is thinking. And Stockfish is walking around the tournament hall giggling to itself because it's not it's not going to take the repetition. It's just being annoying for Leela. Let's have a look. I've locked the PV, haven't I? Yeah. So yeah, Leela's still looking at knight g8, of course. Stockfish still going to refuse there. It's yeah, I mean quite a crucial phase really of the game coming up now. I mean, I would have thought that you know, that it would be kind of tempting for Stockfish to try and take some quick action, because you know the black king, the king on f8. You look at black's development. I mean, it's awful, right? Queenside isn't developed, so somehow, you know, getting in a quick f4 or something feels like, you know, quite a sort of thing you'd really want to do somehow. But and sometimes, you know, Stockfish seems to go for it, and other times not. And then sometimes stuff pops up in its PV, and I'm just really very upset. I mean, this is really weird, right? To just to exchange off the light squared bishops. That would be so strange to do, because the light squared bishops, black's light squared bishop is doing nothing at all. I mean, it's really not a good piece. So, but now, okay, now Stockfish is back to its standard stuff, and it'll probably end up going for f4. Still wants to swap off this light squared bishop to go bishop h3 takes d7. I mean, I understand that that the white bishop is on light squares, the pawn chain's on light squares, so it feels like a bad bishop. But the black bishop on d7 is really not doing very much at all. It's not. It's just getting in the way, really. So. No, we haven't done this. So the openings are basically, well, randomly put together, I think you could say. But no, I mean, there was an ascending scale. That was an experiment that Jeroen did, but whether the openings got progressively more imbalanced. But I don't think he was completely satisfied with how that went. So actually, it's a bit mixed up now. You know, I mean, we'll have. Openings with high exit. I think this opening, this Czech Benoni, has got one of the highest exits, you know, and it's near the front. And well, I know in the middle there's some pretty thrilling ones as well, and you know, so it's all mixed up basically. So so we're not trying to structure it like that. Expected scores 74.2. Ooh, yeah, that's getting that's quite high. That's really getting towards that's really getting towards quite serious advantage for white. Not quite winning, I think, but obviously 75% is it's either going to be a draw or a win. It's still not, but yeah, it's getting close to dangerous territory, really. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, Stockfish's PV, it keeps on veering between stuff that looks quite, you know, quite gung-ho and aggressive and pretty strong, and stuff that just looks a little bit, yeah, a little bit wimpy, really. You know, and just sort of shuffling the pieces round and being happy. You know, just claiming a plus 1.3 advantage, but without doing too much. So, yeah, not really clear to me, you know, whether it's whether this game is really going to happen, or but you know, as I said, I keep on referring back to this game 49 of Sufi 20, and well, you know, that was a similar game where you know, Stockfish was better, but you're just going round and round and round and round, and then, you know, time gets a bit short. Yeah, you know, and Stockfish just finds, you know, one of these mating patterns, you know, that and that, you know, that Leela didn't see. So yeah, that sort of thing is possible as well. Definitely, you know, Stockfish on the front foot here. Let's have a quick look. What's Stockfish doing here? Wants to play g4 to g5 and bishop f1. Yeah, I mean, I guess what Stockfish wants to do, wants to play bishop f1 to h3, and that will support a a big knight f5 check. So I mean, that is absolutely possible. This I'm a bit just irritating me that it keeps on wanting to swap off the light square bishops, but this sort of looks, this is pretty promising for white, but yeah, not finished yet by any means. I mean, the risky thing for black really is that this in this sort of line, the knight on b4 is just going to be completely out of play. It's hitting d3 and c2. I mean, it might come into play if the whole position gets opened up and then black gets a rook check on the 7th rank. But otherwise, apart from that, it's a pretty useless piece. So white's really playing with an extra piece, well, if you consider that the knight on c3 is the extra piece, I mean, that would be a pretty good piece to redeploy round to g5. So yeah, I don't know. Threefold repetition did not happen indeed. So it's I think Stockfish is going to carry on. I mean, I really thought that this was that repeating the position like this was a specific Stockfish patch. It was just doing it. It was just doing it automatically. If it saw a repetition, then it was going for it. I always thought that was the case, but I can be completely wrong. But I mean, it does it a lot. It really does do this an awful lot. I've certainly seen it a lot in my test games. So I just thought it was one of those things, one of those mannerisms maybe that was programmed in somehow. King g7. Yeah, it's going to be a long one. I'm looking at Stockfish's PV, and there is a hell of a lot of shuffling. I think it's time to get the camp bed out and set the alarm clock soon to a couple of hours further. Because I think it's going to rook dg1, g5. Wow. Oh well, there's definitely h takes g4. You're expecting? Wow. Definitely some action happening in the PVs at the moment. So yeah, that's good to see at least. Yeah, I mean, you really want Stockfish to be sort of trying to break through. Really, I mean, that's the thing. It's you don't really want a huge amount of shuffling. Yeah, I'm not sure it's I think talking about a fortress for the moment is probably a little bit early. Plenty of pawn breaks still, and yeah, there's a big Stockfish initiative on the king side to be dealt with. So I'm definitely expecting some fireworks somewhere. The only question is, when are those fireworks going to be? Are they going to be yeah, when Leela is very short of time, or are they going to come earlier? It's just going to try and sit down a little bit. Oh, my back. Ouch. Yeah, Canchess, I think you're absolutely right. This could be a very long game. But with an awful lot of shuffling, and then it's only going to be the hardcore TCC chatters who see it happening live when with Leela and Stockfish both on the increment, suddenly the attack happens. It's that is really going to be the way that it's going to happen, I think. Somehow, what's happened with Stockfish actually is its PV seems to have disappeared. Thinking for 3 minutes. Rook H F1. Wow. That doesn't make any sense at all. Ah, oh, dear me. Rook H F1. I don't really understand that sort of move at all, Rook H F1. I mean... Ah, we're back to Rook DG1. Okay, this is again quite interesting PV from Stockfish. Let's have a look at it. It's now sort of expecting Leela to try and break the bind, but then okay, we're going F4 very quickly. I mean, this sort of thing, it's the sort of thing that could be very dangerous. Queen E7, a lot of pawns disappearing. It just looks like 2 extra pawns for Stockfish, or am I missing something? Yeah, again, quite interesting. So yeah, I mean that's really what you want to see from Stockfish. You want it to have this smell of blood in its nose, and thinking that it's that if it acts quickly, it's going to have the most chance of success, which I think, to be honest, is true. I really think that with Black's pieces as they are, that playing a quick G5, a quick F4, that sort of stuff, it's going to it's going to be very it's just going to be very powerful. So Leela has moved, so it's thinking that its position has improved a little bit. This must be Mr. Bede's praying that is helping this. It must be. So I'm not sure that the PVs are YouTube stream is delayed around 40 seconds. Yes, Dragon Mist. I did that because we were having problems with the stream just constantly stopping and seemingly buffering. So I gave it some sort of delay like that. So seems to be running smoother at the moment. So hopefully that's okay. Stockfish an 84%. Yeah, it's true. Stockfish looking pretty confident, it must be said. Mr. Beats praying is cursed. It's well, I think we need some good solid praying here. I think to rescue this position, because it really is going to be a tough one against Stockfish. Quite interesting what Leela's. I mean, these are quite interesting things, really. To see how are they actually looking to set up a defense, and Leela is or was very often looking at playing H takes G4, which in principle, always feels wrong. You always say, don't open lines, don't move pawns on the side where you're defending. Let the opponent make the effort to open lines. Don't do it for him. but you do notice quite often that engines are well, they don't necessarily listen to that advice, and Leela's often going for HG here. But this is quite, this is quite a nice. This really feels like a shogi game from Black. Just an anaguma where you move your rook-like lance one move in the side and then tuck your king into the corner. I don't know. Yeah, what would this be? Queen H4. This looks, doesn't look particularly convincing for White, I have to say. Not super easy for Black, but not super bad. Yeah, not so clear. Then what have we got on Stockfish's PV? Oh, Stockfish will be thinking now when just played A5, G4. Bring the knight round to G5. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of shuffling in this position, but you would have thought at some stage that F4 could be pretty dangerous. So, but it looks like, it looks like Stockfish is going to go. It thinks that this pawn structure is just really good for White, and it's going to go there, and then it's going to shuffle around it. Possible. I'm not 100% convinced that the pawn structure is so good. I mean, I do agree that Black can't do very much, but I'm not 100% sure that White can do. Will be able to do loads and loads and loads. But okay. I mean, if anyone can work it out, then it's Stockfish. I mean, we'll bring this knight maybe closer to E3. Maybe get some knight F5s in at some stage. Could be dangerous. It's yeah, A5. I'm not really happy with that move, to be honest. I mean, I understand, you want to get your knight on B8 active, but I don't think it's doing much on B4, and I just, giving up all hope of queenside play there when the kingside is not yet blocked. Yeah, that doesn't feel right, really. It feels wrong. I mean, it's one of those GM human bits of knowledge that we say, yeah, knight on B4 is just useless. But you still see all of the top engines doing it. So yeah, we might be yeah, I suppose we might be wrong, but I think from that point of view, we've got some wisdom, in that just putting the knight on B4 is really often a very bad idea in these sort of Benoni structures. So I think I think that's right. I think when there was that game Stoveface against Stockfish in Div P, I think it was Div P season 20. Then Ivan Sokolov, very strong Dutch Grandmaster, sort of tweeted that yeah, every Grandmaster knows you shouldn't put a knight on B4 in these positions. So yeah, maybe still a few things to learn. But yeah, I mean, on the other hand, you could argue what else were you going to do with a knight? But I sort of argue really that that it would be better on B8, where it could come into D7, than on A6. That might be. But I think, I mean, if I was, let's just have a look. What was I thinking of? I was thinking about something really really stupid actually, but. I was thinking that rather than playing A5, I wanted to play B6. And then after King C2, I wanted to play Rook A7. Let's just, make some random moves like that. And then get the Rook active like that. And then try and keep this knight somewhere within striking distance of E5. So, maybe you just do something like this, and then play the bishop to C8, and then play the knight to D7. but to try and keep it within striking distance of e5, so that, you know, if ever stuff happens in the centre, then you've got some sort of defence. I mean, that seemed, and at least you're keeping the option of going b5. I mean, of course, you're giving white the option still of going a5, but I think at the moment, having the possibility to do something on the queen side is really something that you want, rather than giving it up completely. You know, I really think this is not a good move from a oh, sorry, I haven't shown you this. Let me show you my plan again. b6, rook a7, rook c8, rook g8, and play it like this. Just try and keep that knight on d7 close to e5, and not send it on a limb on b4. And yeah, obviously white could try and open the queen side, and that could be, you know, difficult for black. But I don't know. I just think playing a5 really gives up any hopes you've got for counterplay, and I don't think that's quite right. But we'll see. The proof of the pudding will be in the eating. So Leela is getting ready to tuck its king away with rook h7, king h8, and Stockfish is going to play its plan. And I think we're going to get this this structure that we mentioned before. We're going to get. Let me just take the PGM. We're going to get this structure pretty soon. Yeah, I mean it's quite quite an interesting structure. Again, you know, I would so love to be able to play something like b5 at some stage and just distract white a little bit. I'm really feeling aggrieved that I don't have that anymore. But yeah, I mean, what are we actually going to do here with white? Well, I mean, you know, the one positive thing, you know, from my point of view, is that this knight is not on b4 yet. So, you know, we could sort of reroute it maybe to cover some of the squares. Although in the PV, this doesn't seem to be happening. I mean, we're definitely going to bring one knight to h3 and aim for g5 and then e6, which is kind of why I like the knight on c7, really. So knight b4 feels a little bit odd. Knight h3, knight f7, but Leela's covering it another way, basically. Wants to put a knight on f7, stopping knight g5 coming in. And then it's a question of, you know, what are you going to do with the rest of your pieces? I would be very tempted to put a knight on e3 here. So something like I don't know, b3. Let's just make some random moves. You know, not something like this. And then afterwards to you know, we might have f4, we might have knight f5. I mean, you know, the stuff that you're noticing is that, for example, you know, I could just for example, if here, then, you know, I've got ideas like f4, e takes f4, and knight f5, for example. You know, that sort of crazy stuff. Yeah, I mean, that seems quite natural, but, you know, how good is it? Is it really, you know, win-win good enough, or is it just pretty good enough? Yeah, it's very close. I mean, I get this f4 move in. I mean, there's you know, there's even cases where you might be able to say, you know, I'm just going to go rook g2, 93, whatever. I'm just going to play a move like rook g2, and if you take on h4, then I just come back and I'll kick the queen away, and then that open h file will prove to be decisive. You know, those are the sort of things that can happen in this position. Obviously not exactly like this, but you know, it's the sort of things you're looking out for. Just yeah, not sure. I mean, it's a very, it's you know, a position where you say only white can win, and white can't possibly even lose this. but yeah, you know, what can you say? Oh, explain g5. Yeah. Well, I mean, White's got to try and do. Essentially, White's got to try and make some progress. And once you've played g4, if there's still tension on these between these pawns, you know, just with the knight, the bishop, the pawn attacking it, it's going to be hard for White to achieve much more. I mean, one idea, you know, could be that you you play a queen to f2, and then you try and let's just make a few moves. You try and get a knight into f5 check as a sacrifice, but it's not, you know, it's not so easy really. So, I mean, from that point of view, g5, it's affecting the coordination of black's pieces. You know, a knight's going back to e8, which is, well, not great. It doesn't have any fantastic squares from there. And then, yeah, I mean, actually, you know, I would have thought that White's main idea really is to follow up with f4, and then afterwards to get in queen f4. You know, just for example, f4 takes and queen f4. And then we're going to try and organise to get in e5 somehow. You know, that's sort of what I would be expecting. I think we'll probably have to organise it better with the white pieces. But the other thing as well that you can try is just to play a move like bishop f1 and then bishop h3, and then afterwards get a knight on f5 check in. You know, that's another common thing. And just having the pawn on g5 just makes it very, very dangerous. I mean, the key thing in this one is whether, you know, black can attack the pawn on g5, get rid of it, and then whether this structure is going to prove to be winning for White or not. You know, it's but it's really a question of yeah. I mean, once you've gone g4, you're really going to have to play g5 to be able to be able to take the next step, which is f4. Really, I think that's the main thing. It's decent. You know, it's I think it's, you know, completely normal there. I mean, obviously, we were looking an awful lot at plans for going f4 without g4, which I think were also very dangerous. But this is a well-known, it's a well-known structure for White. So knight e8 has been played, and Stockfish now thinking. Yeah, I mean, you've got two things which are quite tempting. I mean, you can play the knight to g3, and you know, look to play get a knight into f5, or you could play the knight to d2, and then look for f4, ef, queen f4, and then bring a knight into f3 and get e5 in. That's also quite tempting, I have to say. But this is quite interesting in the Leela PV. Mr. Beads keeps on saying move, but as far as I can see, Leela's evaluation keeps on going up. So I'm not quite sure about that one. Yeah, Leela. Oh no, Leela was just in the PV for Leela. It was looking at not playing f6, but now it's going to do it. And PVs are back to just draws again. Yeah, kind of. But I think there's going to be, you know, if we get to this pawn structure that we've been looking at here, sorry, this one, then I think, oh, good Lord, Matthew, click on the right window, please. If you get to this one, there's going to be quite a bit of shuffling, I think, just whilst Stockfish tries to work out what's the best position to put its pieces. You know, I think I really would expect there to be a lot of shuffling, but I would think that something along these lines, you know, with a nice on e3 like this, and then, you know, looking for the f4 break, that this would be somewhere close to optimal in my opinion. But yeah, it's not. not 100% clear. I mean, the other thing that black can always do is play a move like knight d8 just to try and stop f4, and if you go knight g5 check, then well, getting an f4 will be more difficult. It's I mean, yeah, from a human perspective, I mean, if I was playing a very strong player, I would probably be just reasonably happy. I mean, I can't lose it. I'm much better, and well, we'll see what happens. If I was playing a weaker player that I really did seriously want to beat, then I might be getting worried, slightly, or I'd be a little bit nervous because these positions can turn up to be just not winnable somehow. If black defends well, and probably white needs a reasonable amount of thinking power to work out a good attacking structure and then work out the tactics afterwards. So not easy, not easy. But quite fascinating, really. I mean, it's really, really very interesting. This, just to see. See, whether Stockfish is going to make it or not. I would kind of expect Stockfish to win this, I have to say. Had a lot of just also past experiences with these sort of games with Leela. I would kind of put my money on Stockfish at the moment, but well, never know. I think I'm going to grab a quick drink, so I will be back in about 2 minutes. The temperature's still incredibly hot here, or is it my machines running Leela games? That could well be as well. Ouch! Just get up. I'll be right back. Oh dear. Oh, my back. Ow. It's all the Chess Fest's fault. So I was in when was it? Saturday? Sunday. There was Chess Fest in England on Trafalgar Square. Absolutely incredible. Just chessboards everywhere on Trafalgar Square. It was fantastic. But I mean, it was very hot. I didn't want to go on the tube, so I ended up walking from to there from Victoria Station, and well, my Fitbit said that at the end of the day I'd walked 17 kilometers in total, just in London and everywhere, and all around the place, and somehow my back the next day was really suffering. So but watching engine chess makes everything better, of course. Stockfish is liking this more and more, but I'm not sure it's discovered anything particularly remarkable extra. I think it's just it's liking the structure more and more. Let's have a little look at those PVs. Who's thinking at the moment? We'll just lock this one. So, oh, wait a minute. So Stockfish is thinking that black is going to exchange off queens. Okay. Oh, look at that. Just leaving the queen on prise. Lovely. Knight f1. Well, this is the question. Is this really bad for black? Is that really bad? I mean, white's obviously better, but I mean, is it really, really? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm yeah, not super impressed by this really. I would have thought you'd want to keep the queens on really, you know, just to have some attacking chances against the king. I'm not 100% convinced that you've got enough weaknesses to really force the win. You know, just on the king side weaknesses and the d6 pawn. I'm not sure. All right, that's what are we looking at the end? Ooh, I mean, this is not. I mean, again, I still don't like that knight on b4, but is this really winning? Will f4 at some stage prove to be decisive? Close, close. I mean, you know, obviously, if this turns out just to be, you know, objectively winning, then it's just fantastic judgment from Stockfish. But it doesn't. Yeah. Well, yeah. In a game, I'd feel pretty nervous about it. You know, if I really felt I needed to win a game, I wouldn't be confident. But you know, looking at it a little bit more, probably f4 will end up being quite awkward, especially the rook's on h6. But it's small degrees, you know. I mean, if black gets a slightly better defensive structure, then all of a sudden white's achieving nothing. So, yeah, it's very, very, very tight, this one. How about Leela's PV? What have we got? Rook f8. Here we are. What does Leela want to do? 95. I mean, it's all pretty similar, really. It's not. Yeah, this position. Ooh. Yeah, 1.56. Again, yeah, you know, unpleasant for black, but I don't know. I wouldn't say that my you know, the alarm bells are really, really ringing, and I'm saying, yeah, this is definitely losing. I think this is there's going to be danger, you know, if white gets in f4 in a good way, but you know, there's also going to be plenty of defensive resources for black as well. Intriguing, this one. You know, it's I just have the feeling a little bit that that Stockfish is not really showing the real power in pushing this one through. But one nice thing, and I think that this is something that Stockfish is definitely not seeing, is that Leela is thinking of bringing its knight back to d7. So it's not going ahead with putting its knight to b4. Leela's really bringing back the knight to d7 there to support the king, which I think is very, very useful. So that might be something that takes Stockfish by surprise, because I'm only seeing knight b4 all the time in Stockfish's PV. So that could be quite interesting. I'd be quite interested to see what happens with Stockfish's evaluation when knight b8 is played. Oh no, not again. Mr. Beads again doesn't have faith in Leela. Third fail means draw by repetition. It's he's starting to believe that that's the Matrix, isn't it? That's with Leela as the Oracle and Mr. Beads as Keanu Reeves. That would be a much better movie. Ah, this is good. Leela, insta-moving. That's what we want. Ah, knight b8 now in Stockfish's PV. And, but yeah, still 1.55. I mean, it just feels that this structure is really good for it. I don't know. I'm not so sure, to be honest. I'm really not so sure that this is so good. It's all about this one, really. You know, it's all about the timing of this one. Is this going to be dangerous? I mean, in this particular situation, then yeah, in this particular situation, you know, I mean, this looks very dangerous because we've got this opposition of the rook and the king. So, you know, knight h5 ideas are possible. The g6 pawn is only lightly defended. And here, knight fe6, knight g4, knight d8. Wow, what's that one in aid of? Knight c6. Yeah, again, the end of the PV always gets a little bit random somehow. This actually looks quite good for black, actually, this one. So yeah, but I mean, it's really about that. You know, are you going to get f4 in with any you know, with real power? And I don't know. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not convinced that you're going to get it and that it's really going to make such a big difference. You know, that Leela can't hold. I really yeah, I'm really starting to I really doubt this, to be honest. So yeah, we're going to see. It's going to be tight. I mean, I can't really it's not that I can predict this properly, but it just feels to me like with this knight, especially with this knight coming back, not committed to b4, coming back b8 to d7 and helping black defend, I think black's got enough firepower to be able to survive whatever Stockfish can throw at it. So that's even said good for black. No, I didn't. That's the special 69626 network. I'm using that one too. Minus 0.77 for classic eval. My goodness. What is that based on, actually? Imbalanced pawns. Threats. Is that maybe because the queen is attacked? That. Oh, Jadra, that's really cruel. That's so cruel. It's Niblagui. Has anyone tried using Stockfish, by the way? Stockfish in the Niblagui. I saw that it's with the latest versions that it's supposed to be possible, but I haven't tried yet. I just wondered. It's I'm not quite sure what the advantages are, but it seemed like a nice feature. So I talked to the guy, but I think the program has changed somehow. I think for Nibbler, hasn't it? But so I talked or somebody who was involved with Nibbler anyway, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if you just had a program where you could sort of seamlessly have Leela suggesting moves and then Stockfish analysing it automatically, and then and then the other way around, and just have some sort of feature where you can just where you can have two engines analysing together, where one's suggesting the moves and the other one's analysing. I thought that would be such a cool feature, and I'm pretty sure that there'd be quite a few strong players who'd be very happy to have a feature like that. So, I just saw that that Stockfish could be used in Nibbler. So I was wondering what the features were around that. Is it still Rooklift? I thought that the page had moved somewhere. That's why. And I thought, yeah, I'm probably completely wrong. It's but it's a great tool. It is a great tool, Nibbler. I use it a lot when I'm playing training games against Leela. Yeah, again, I mean, this is in Stockfish's PV. F4 is played. How amazing is that for white? It doesn't look that amazing. I mean, black's always constricted. I mean, the knight stopping the king from moving. A knight comes into F4. It's attacking G6, but I don't know. Is the result? Are you really going to manage to get something winning? I mean, these knights do a great job of defending lots of squares. I'm really the author just changed his name. Okay, fair enough. That was the I was just wondering whether it was the same guy or whether it was somebody else had taken it over. Okay, that's thanks very much for that. That's good to know. Well, if people are starting to hope for mouse slips from Leela, then confidence cannot be high in Stockfish. It's yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think the fact that the queens have come off is quite positive for Leela. I was much more worried about having this sort of position, but with the queens on, so danger to the king. I thought that might be quite. I thought that might be quite unpleasant, and. Yeah, as I said, I'm looking at the variations in the PV, and I'm not really feeling it. That Stockfish has really got the the power in the position to really break through, and obviously having this knight getting involved in the defense as well, not stuck out on B4. I think that's very I think that's very good too. But yeah, I mean, there must be danger, right? I mean, Leela's evaluation 0.76, still pretty high for white. It's expecting win chances 51.9%, draw chances 41.4. I mean, basically it's expecting to yeah, it's choosing between a win and a draw, and yeah, that's sort of sort of happen equally often, basically. You know, so yeah. But I don't know. Looking at this position, that feels a little high. Yeah, I mean, I suppose in some ways, you know, I really do feel that that Stockfish hasn't played this very well. You know, I think it would have been, you know, possible to arrange this without exchanging off queens. You know, I mean, that sort of stuff, really. You know, it would really have been possible to organise this. So, yeah, I think you know, Stockfish has allowed an awful lot in this position that it didn't need to allow, and yeah, it's assuming that this resulting position is really promising, but I don't know. I'm not confident anymore. Ah, yes, but Mr. Beads, when you report a bug, everyone jumps. It's but I had some conversations with him as well, and he was very, yeah, really did a lot of work on it, and yeah, it's a really lovely product. Yeah, sacking the exchange. I mean, there've been a number of places where you sort of think it could happen, but I think you'd need to have a knight ready to jump into e5 straight away. Otherwise, after knight f4, ef4, we'll just take on, we'll just go e5 and then get a knight into e4, and it's just going to be too horrible. So oh, fantastic! It's no, really great product, Nibbler. Yeah, this is going to be a very long game. I'm just going to have a little look to see what on earth, what's the next opening actually. Oh yeah, my next opening, that was, ooh, it's going to be, hopefully going to be a reasonably lively night. It's the next opening, it's yeah, I think it's quite nice. It's not one of my top favorites, but it's just yeah, a good opening, I think, for the Sufi. So should lead to some exciting chess. Aquarium, yeah, I tried to use Aquarium a while back, but I just got really confused. I think that probably at the time it just stretched my patience of what I was going to yeah, yeah. Basically I would have needed to sit down and work out what the product can do for me, but I just really wanted to just play around and start using it straight away, and the things that I was assuming it would be able to do, it didn't seem able to. So but I mean, I'd be quite prepared to accept that it was yeah, just too much impatience on my part, and not taking the time to get to know the product. It's but yeah, and I used it I tried it in 2014, I think 2015, and then tried it a bit and then stopped. So is next opening the Grob? I think I'll reveal that the next opening is not the Grob. I will reveal that. So yeah, looking at the PV, Stockfish is coming up with another way of shuffling its pieces around, moving the knight to h3. linking its knights like that. And then on the cusp of playing f4, it just sort of stops. Lovely, and starts shuffling. And then we get in f4. Yeah, and again, you know, I sort of look at this position and I think, I can't really believe that this is going to be a win. You know, absolutely pressure, everything, but yeah, just don't believe it's, I don't believe it's a win at all. So I think we're going to have a double draw here, and it didn't. To be honest, it's a little bit unlikely, really, because in both games I've really had the impression that White was, you know, was really well on top, but somehow both engines have misplayed it a bit. I think. I mean, you know, I think that in the game where Leela was White, I think that, you know, we can really say that Stockfish, you know, did an awful lot with very active defence, etc. Here, I feel, to be honest, that I don't really feel that Leela's played that great with Black, but I have the feeling that Stockfish just has been a bit careless in you know, allowing stuff to get exchanged, etc. And that it's just going to end up a little short of the firepower it needs to. Oh my goodness! Mr. Beads has faith in Leela. You know, everything's going to turn from now on. So all's well with the world. So the question is actually, when are we going to get a break in the centre? Because we've got the 50 move rule, of course, and White's got the move b3 as well. But yeah, I mean, b3 probably is going to be played quite quickly, looking at the Stockfish PV. But then afterwards, yeah, I mean, how long is Stockfish going to wait, and how much time will both engines have when when f4 is played? It's really yeah, this is the dangerous. It was all, you know, sort of coming together for Leela, and now that Mr. Beads has found his faith again, then what will happen? Whoa, Leela going on a pawn grab. I'm not sure. This is, again, I'm wondering whether this faith is sort of having a bad effect. What is Leela looking at? Leela is looking at a daring pawn grab. So, Dragon missed. So Leela is just going to go rook f4 and grab that h pawn. How is this one? Well, frankly, this one doesn't look too bad either for Black. This one looks pretty decent. What are we going to do? We're going to go f4 again. Wait like this. Knight f5. Yeah, again, I mean, this doesn't look... you would have thought, really, that Black will manage to hold this somehow. I mean, I must confess, I mean, I have lost a number of positions like this to Leela and Stockfish, while thinking this must be a draw, but still. I do, yeah, do get a little bit worried about when you see plans like Rook F4 from Leela. You know, it's just really, it's maybe playing just a little bit risky. You know, just prefer Leela sit and wait, really, I think, with this. But okay, Rook HG3 has been played. So Leela thinking now, ready for 5 minutes. I mean, I guess both engines are going to start burning their time now. Yeah, 50 move rule, but we last took something on move 29, so there's going to be there's going to be b3 as well to play for white. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, could be quite a long one. Yeah, it must be said, commentating on it, I am wondering about the time control. Just wondering a little bit about whether we could, whether a faster time control, whether the div-p time control would be fine for the Sufi. I know that, yeah, you know, obviously the higher time control leads to better quality, but yeah, it was a very nice time control for div-p. It was just a really nice, nice length of games, I found. I mean, you know, the hardware is so fast, they're calculating so much. But yeah, I mean, it's just at certain moments, really, isn't it? I mean, it's moments like this when you're anticipating that that the engines are really going to shuffle an awful lot, and then there's going to be some moment where they move at some stage. You really would just like to fast forward this. Yeah, the very, very long time control is going to be funny, but that's different. That's we just they were expecting it somehow. Yeah, I mean, Leela's PV, whether it's grabbing the F4, the H4 pawn. I mean, it's only really specifically in reply to if white goes king e3, you know, and allows this rook f4 because knight f4, ef4. I don't think that Stockfish is even thinking of putting the king on e3. So. Have I locked the PV? Just oh, I have. That's why. Actually, it's still the same from Leela virtually. Leela's just pretty focused on this whole plan of trying to grab the f4 pawn, but okay, and it's seeing that. But funnily in a way, you know, f4 is not even featuring in Leela's PV, so I think that probably indicates that it feels that it can deal with it quite easily. Yeah, I mean, I think we're in one of those positions that that has all sorts of pleasant features for white, but somehow I don't think it's going to be enough. Yeah, that's right. Last super final we had d4, c5, d5, e5, and both engines won. Although, I mean, that is supposed to be even worse for black because after d4, c5, d5, e5, white can still put a knight on c4, so put pressure on the black pawn on d6. So yeah, you know, I mean, but indeed, I mean, we've had you know, sort of these sort of positions before, and you know, they've led to wins. I'm pretty sure, you know, but here somehow, yeah. I mean, to be really sure, you'd have to run 10 games like this and just see whether you know, the engines play the same stuff all the time, and whether it always ends up being a draw somehow. But Leela thinking for 10 minutes here, which is kind of not particularly not particularly useful, really. I mean, it's just got all the correct moves in its PV, really, all the moves it needs to play. So yes, indeed. Hey, Petter. The match score is level at the moment. So Stockfish won the second game very convincingly, but Leela won the third game. I suppose you say equally convincingly. And then they've come close afterwards, but yeah, now it's parity at the moment. So. Yeah, just looking at Leela's PV and really thinking, you know, why are you thinking? It's just I do wonder sometimes, actually, you know, what causes Leela to spend yeah, you know, so much time on a position like this. What's because I always thought that at some stage, if you know, if Leela had yeah, a move in its PV as number one for long enough, it was very unlikely to change its initial choice. So you know, you just sort of think, well, or is it that there's a second move that also looks very tempting, and that Leela's desperately calculating it more to bring it to the top. Yeah, no, that would be great. Hello, that would be quite fun. Happy to adjudicate. So come on, Leela. This is getting a little bit. This is getting a bit excessive. We just really want to fast forward the engines to the moment where F4 happens, really. And I mean, what's really funny is that, yeah, I mean, this is 14 minutes, but this main line has barely changed, actually. I mean, we were looking at, I think we were looking at something like knight f2, rook h4 before, but and now we've got rook h3 in the PV. But I mean, it's barely changed. So yeah, just feels so odd that that Leela keeps on thinking and thinking and thinking about it, and trying to go deeper in there. There is clearly a feeling that Leela's time management is not optimal. Okay, Leela will allocate a long think if there are two moves which are very close, and it's possible to change its opinions. Okay, so yeah, okay. So if two moves are close enough, yeah, and there's enough thinking power that's gone on both, that Leela could still change its mind, then it's going to keep on going. But it's yeah, it's funny somehow when it happens in a position like this, you know, where you really say, well, it doesn't actually make that much difference, you know, to think in this sort of position. You probably, you know, whether you play knight b8 or rook f8, it's not going to make a great deal of difference. But okay, those are the things you just have to live with when you're watching Engine Chess. The patch reduces Leela's time management problem with transpositions. Yeah, it's I can imagine it's a pretty complicated thing to get right, time management. It's and well, these sort of breaks are good for the chat to start discussing unrelated topics. People with insomnia need to watch this game to sleep. Not really, to be honest, because yeah, I really do want to go to sleep now, but I'm also quite intrigued as to what's going to happen when Stockfish plays f4. That's the problem. So I'm really wondering whether to go to bed or whether to keep on streaming here. Yeah, when the move doesn't matter, it thinks longer. Yeah, does indeed seem to be the case there. But Leela has made it. It's quite funny, really. You know, Leela thinks for 18 minutes and gets 292.4 million nodes, and within 3 seconds, then Stockfish has surpassed it and is now on 1.8 billion. So quite funny how that goes. But we should get a few insta moves, I guess. If as long as Stockfish is a good boy and plays the moves that Leela expects. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure that this is going to be I'm not sure this is really going to whether f4 is really gonna win the game for Stockfish. It's gonna be tight, but I think that Leela's going to manage to find a good defensive setup for his pieces. Yeah, this would be a very annoying. If Leela were to lose this one, then it would be a very annoying game pair to lose, really, because I think this was, definitely one that was that should normally be more in Leela's favour than in Stockfish's favour. So to lose this one would be bad, I think. Let's check I haven't locked anyone there. Yay, Leela, insta move. Good stuff. Ooh, and rook f1. Knight b8 will be insta moved as well. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. What is crystal there? What is crystal thinking? 1.08. Knight c7 looks a little bit weird. Knight, yeah, okay, but yeah, this is not very convincing from crystal, I have to say. I mean, putting a knight on b4 is the ultimate is the ultimate mistake, really, I think. So you just got to keep your knight close to the king. So yeah, not too sure about crystal though. Oh good lord, sorry, I'm scrolling around. Yeah, not too sure about that. I think yeah, rook f1 should be another insta move, really. So knight b8, but then looks like rook f2 is going to be played, so that'll probably cause Leela to start thinking again. I'm probably going to carry on for maybe another 15 minutes or something, and then unless Stockfish plays f4 in the meantime, then I'll probably end up going to bed and then seeing what happens the next morning. My goodness me. And but I get the feeling that this game is going to last another few hours, so a couple of hours. So yeah, one of these 300 move draws could be, or a 250 move win for Stockfish, that sort of thing. So probably best not to wait for it. But I'll carry on for another 15 minutes and see whether Stockfish actually does anything. And otherwise we'll see how it goes tomorrow. So have we had any dramatic stuff in the PVs? I mean, not really, have we? I mean, Leela's end of PV is this, basically. I hope it's not going to get its rook trapped like Ali did against Stockfish in the Div P, but this is looking pretty decent for black. Although I'm again a little bit sad that the knight has moved to b4 again, and this is Stockfish's PV, which, in all fairness, has not advanced much. in about 20 moves. So yeah. I think smart money is on a draw, but yeah, I mean, looking at the time situation, well, both machines are going to be level there. So I think yeah, if there's going to be any excitement, I think it's probably going to be in about an hour and a half's time when both machines are in increment. Oh, Stockfish was always looking to play b3, but it seems to be keeping this move back now in its PV. So it's yeah, it's not playing b3, so it's keeping that in reserve to boost the 50 move rule, I think. So that could make it even longer, of course. It's yeah, I mean, let's just probably I'm going to sorry about that. I'm going to probably close the stream sometime in the next few minutes, but just maybe just look back on the game as it went. I mean, h5 interesting, h4. You know, both engines did this, and well, we had Leela thinking a lot about playing bishop g7 or not, and then you know, in the end, Leela went bishop h6 as well, which in principle I think it really, you know, sort of removes any active chances that Black has got in this position. And then we got a series of quite strange moves, really, where yeah, both engines were really seemed to be struggling to find a consistent plan. I think, certainly in this position, natural human impulse would be bishop d3, f3, knight f1 to e3, and then afterwards, we having put the knight on a great square, we look around later. But yeah, bishop e2 played quite strange moves, really, and Leela was looking for a long time to castle queenside, then changed to kingside at the last moment. Then these slightly odd repetitions, but yeah, then a5, closing the queenside, and you sort of think, whoa, I don't know. I mean, the kingside's still open here, so why would we want to close the queenside like that? But then here somehow, it all went a bit. I think it just went wrong here for Stockfish. That there should have been a way to, if you want this structure, to avoid exchanging off queens, and certainly in this position here, basically we're going to be sticking in the structure for many moves. But yeah, I mean, you really do think that the black here is going to be able to hold it. I mean, f4 is going to come in, and it's going to be dangerous, but I think that the black is really going to manage fine. The only thing that's worrying me slightly is that Leela's looking to put the knight on b4 here, really, which I don't like very much at all. I think okay, if it exchanges it off for the knight on d3, then that's possible, I suppose. But it does feel quite dangerous, really, putting the knight over there, because that knight is really not doing very much. And if the king side opens up, then I think you're going to be missing the knight's not here defending. It is out on a limb on b4. So yeah. So I mean, there's still plenty of excitement. Somehow these engine games, they always seem to get exciting somehow towards the end. Even if the engines both know that it's a draw, they still manage to play the line where both sides queen and that sort of stuff. So No, I mean it's nowhere in Leela's. It's. I don't think it's ever been in Leela's PV. That's the really strange thing. And yeah, F4 is now. Oh no, F4 is in Stockfish's PV. It's over here. Have we? No, not in Leela's at all. In Stockfish's, what's this one like? EF, Knight F6. This one feels a bit more promising for white. Those black knights look a little bit odd. The king's in the corner, and we're attacking d6. Don't know whether that's decisive, but that looks like that looks like something a bit better. I think you know, for white, that looks like a more attractive way for white to play. That might lead somewhere. Ah, my goodness me. Yeah, interesting, but yeah, we're going to have quite a few moves before any of that happens. I do find it a bit strange that Leela's not hasn't had F4 in its PV yet. That's I mean, it must be Leela must be anticipating it. So there we are. As if by magic, F4. What's Leela thinking? F4, sorry. Let's just lock that. Takes, knight e5, knight g4. It's going for this. Okay, interesting. I mean, in all fairness, the black king is not super happy in this position. I'm just sort of wondering, actually. I mean, does black have any moves? Isn't this just completely lost for black, this PV? I mean, it's looking quite bad, to be honest. Obviously, it's, you know, I mean, I know it gets random towards the end, but just intriguing. This looks quite bad because I'm just thinking, you know, white plays a move. I don't know, should we say king e2 or something like that? So I'm just wondering what black's next move is. You know, this knight can't move because I'm going to go to f8. If you go to knight g4, then I've got rook f7, and then take there, and then take on d6. And if you move rook e8, then I can just go knight f7, which is going to be well, it's going to be very strong for white. So that PV actually just looks completely lost for black. Wow. Feels unlikely, really, to me, but yeah, this would obviously be pretty dangerous. Just with the, I think it's kind of due to this king here. Yeah, I do wonder about putting a rook on e7, really, but okay, could be some. There could be some twists and turns. Could be some twists and turns in the game. But that f4 from Leela was actually looked like the most convincing f4 I've seen so far, I have to say. So knight df8, f4, knight takes c6. Yeah, okay. Stockfish's PV is still here. Quite noticeable, really, that you know, Leela's looking to really play f4 quickly, whereas yeah, Stockfish really looking to take all of its time to play f4. My goodness, I'm sure I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and just have to check what happened. It's okay. I think we're going to end the stream here. I'm going to go to bed, I think. So yeah, a bit sad about it, but I think it's really gonna take too long to resolve itself, and yeah, I want to be vaguely alive tomorrow morning. So yeah, I mean, good luck everyone who's going to stay watching the game. And thanks very much for all the chat and the interaction. Really good fun. And yeah, well, we will see each other, I'm sure, in the chat tomorrow. I'm probably going to do a bit more streaming tomorrow as well, during the day or in the morning or something like that. Just quite good fun. And yeah, also might just in the morning, yeah, maybe actually let's just have a look. Just have a look at what the schedule is, because obviously I'm incredibly, where's my Firefox there, incredibly interested in when my openings are played, of course. Live and schedule. Estimated start. So 14. So 12 past midnight, and then 9 and 10, 4 o'clock in the morning. I might just be able to see the tail end of the second game, and then in the morning these will be Jeroen's openings again, and then around 3 o'clock in the afternoon we'll get some more of mine. That'd be quite